Welcome to the DAZN Boxing Show presented by DraftKings. I'm Chris Mannix. He is the Latin Snake, Sergio Mora. And Sergio, we've got a good one in the 168-pound division this weekend. Jaime Munguia, John Ryder, a clash, and not quite the crossroads clash, but certainly one that has a lot of meaning for the winner and could potentially be devastating for the loser. And when I look at this matchup, the very first question I ask is, does John Ryder have the firepower to keep up with Jaime Munguia? We know what Jaime Munguia is and what he was at junior middleweight, at middleweight, and now campaigning at super middleweight. He is a volume punching, aggressive beast, whereas Ryder, a little bit more judicial with his punches. So when you look at this matchup, do you think someone like John Ryder has enough firepower to beat a Jaime Munguia?
Judicial. I never heard that word in boxing, but judicial. I don't know. I'm in the criminal system. I've heard it, but never in boxing, Chris Mannix. But yes, you know what? I don't think John Ryder has the firepower to keep off Munguia, but he does have the fire extinguisher to actually put down what Munguia is bringing to him, because both of these guys are susceptible when it comes to defense. They both get hit, especially Munguia. Ryder's a little bit more sneaky. You know, he's a little bit more, selective with his attack. He knows how to fight on the inside. He doesn't stay there too long. He's a southpaw, so he gets that left-handed angle. He has a good right hook. So anytime you have a southpaw with the right hook, that could be interesting. But he does get hit. And I don't like the way he reacts when he gets hit to the body, Chris Mannix. He has been stopped one time. It was way back in 2015, but it was to the body that hurt him. And they stopped the fight a little bit too early in that fight. But if Munguia hurts him to the body, I don't see Ryder coming out of that. So this is the type of fight where John Ryder does have enough to get the respect, but does he have enough to cross the finish line? That's going to be the question.
You know, I really want to believe in John Ryder in this fight because he's just an easy guy to root for. He's had some bad luck in his career, most notably in that, pretty disputed loss against Callum Smith, but he's rebounded from that. He had a terrific 2022 quality wins over Daniel Jacobs and Zach Parker, a hard fight against Canelo Alvarez last year. So you kind of instinctively want to root for this guy. I just don't know if there's a clean pathway to victory for John Ryder. I mean, for starters, he is not a volume puncher. He averages, somewhere around 40 plus punches per round. Jaime Munguia is in the 60s. So there's like a 20 punch gap, according to CompuBox, between Jaime Munguia and John Ryder. And when I look at Ryder, I don't see a guy with the kind of fight-changing power that can dissuade Munguia from coming in and throwing all those punches. On top of that, I do have questions, Sergio, about what the Canelo fight took out of Ryder, because he was brave in that fight and he went the distance with one of the best fighters in boxing, but he took some hellacious punishment in that fight. Went down in the middle rounds, ate some big shots all the way to the finish. He had his moments offensively, I'll give him that, but he took a lot more punishment than what he dished out in that fight. So I do wonder what that fight took out of John Ryder. And even though Jaime Munguia is coming off a physical fight against Sergey Derevyanchenko, a fight of the year against Sergey Derevyanchenko, he's younger, he's fresher, he's used to fighting that particular style. To me, John Ryder is going to have to show us something with his power that he hasn't up until this point to beat someone like Jaime Munguia.
You went in the first full circle there. You're saying that John Ryder doesn't have the power, but he's going to have to show you power. Where you're not going to
show us something we haven't seen before.
Okay, that doesn't have to be, that doesn't have to be power. Once again, we always come back to power. It doesn't have to be power. John Ryder is not going to discover power. He's never had it, especially on the championship level. He's not a power puncher. He's a crafty fighter. He knows how to use his size. He knows how to use his height. He knows how to fight big men. He's a southpaw. So these are all the intangibles that he brings to the table. And now he brings experience. He brings a chin. The man's never been really knocked out. He's been stopped on his feet in 2015 in a fight he was winning. Other than that, against all the other fighters you mentioned, from BJ Saunders to Rocky Fielding to Callum Smith, they all have the big size and weight advantage, but they can't hurt this man because he has a rock hard chin. He knows how to fight small. He when he does shell up, it's hard to really get a clean shot on him. So if he fights small, but he fights small, gets on the inside, and then gets out in time. That's how he wins these bigger fights. And against Munguia, who's not a fast fighter, he's not going to use speed to intimidate you. He's not fast-footed. So, you can get in and out of a fighter on Munguia. You can get angles. You can actually get the position you want, get your shots in, and then get out, and then frustrate Munguia. Have him come to you, run into shots. We've seen Munguia frustrated before. We've seen him hurt. Well, not hurt, but we've seen him rocked before. Spike O'Sullivan rocked him. Tyrone Johnson was hitting him with some shots.
Derevyanchenko rocked him.
Derevyanchenko was beating and rocking him. So we have seen Munguia hit and rock, and especially, now at 42 fights, even though he is in his mid-20s, 27 years old, he has a lot of wear and tear, Munguia. So it really, one good punch can actually, shake him up to where Ryder can keep shaking him up and get Munguia a little bit, worried about throwing his hands and letting his hands go. We've seen it before. We could see it again. Ryder has the intangibles and he has the experience and he has the chin. He can make it difficult, but we need to see him actually use those things in the right moments and not stay in there too long.
The other factor in this is that Jaime Munguia is coming into this fight with a new trainer of his own. He's working with Freddie Roach for this fight after leaving Eric Morales to work with Freddie for this camp. And look, I think Freddie is going to have a lot of the same philosophies for Munguia that Morales had. Freddie's not going to turn him into a defensive fighter, but look, we've seen in the past there is an adjustment period for fighters that take on a new trainer. That you got to get on the same page. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 fights. That maybe is a possibility for John Ryder to exploit something in Jaime Munguia.
You know how I feel about trainer changes, but if you're gonna go from Eric Morales, to Freddie Roach, I'm not gonna get mad at that. You're going from a great fighter that was proven to be a really good trainer to a great trainer that wasn't a good fighter. But he works you hard. Freddie Roach, what he does is at Wildcard Gym in Hollywood is they have the right sparring. Fighters from all over the world come to spar the best. So he's going to get the work, he's going to get the strength training, he's going to get the sparring. So he's going to be in tip-top shape. Munguia is not going to be, a little soft around the edges, and he's not going to, get winded in the middle rounds. He's going to be able to throw 100+ punches around with Freddie Roach in his corner. And Roach, his offense is his defense. And we know that Munguia, when he starts trying to jab and overthink and move his head, that's when he gets hit. So he needs to be an offensive machine, and that's what Freddie Roach is going to make him be. I like the trainer switch for this fight, but we still need to see it pan out. And for this first fight back with a new trainer in his corner, new voice, we're going to see how Munguia, who needs to look spectacular in order to get the big names to look in his direction, one fight, we'll see if he gets it.
All right, so before we get to those big names, you look at the odds presented by DraftKings, and Munguia is a pretty heavy favorite going into this fight. Do you see any reason to believe that John Ryder can, pull off an upset?
People are quick to say this is a 50-50 fight, but no, this isn't a 50-50 fight. It's more like a 60-40 fight. But Ryder, 40% is still a good odds. Is there a way for Ryder to win? It has to be a decision. He's not going to knock out Munguia. He can hurt him to the body. He can maybe rock him upstairs, but he's not going to stop him.
But I think it's the reverse. I understand he has not shown big-time power at the championship level, but I don't see how he wins a decision against Munguia, because Munguia is not going to stop coming. I think Ryder, look, but you mentioned this, Sergio, whether it's Spike O'Sullivan or Sergey Derevyanchenko or any of the number of guys that have, stunned at a minimum Jaime Munguia. He has shown a vulnerability to getting clipped and getting hurt. So if I'm John Ryder, I don't know if I'm looking for that home run punch, but I'm certainly looking to slip something in there that's fight changing that, can get me a stoppage.
That's where strategy comes in. That's where you realize you are who you are. You're not a power puncher. You're not going to stop a guy that's never been stopped, one of these Mexicans with these, granite chins. So once you do see him kind of rock, back up, stick to the game plan, get Munguia to run into more shots, win the round easily, on to the next round. Now dig down to the body, make him concentrate downstairs, and then go back upstairs. And start moving, let him win one round, let him get comfortable, then run him into another shot. It's one of these fights where it has to be planned to the finish line. Mark my words, read my lips. John Ryder is not going to knock out Jaime Munguia. Munguia might knock out Ryder, but Ryder's not going to knock him out. Ryder can frustrate him and upset him in certain ways and go to the finish line, but he's not going to knock out, someone with a granite chin. It's just not going to happen. Get that out of your mind.
Well, then I don't see a pathway for John Ryder to win.
Then you don't.
I think Munguia is just going to be just all offense all the time and be overwhelming. I think Ryder gets to the finish line, but I don't see him landing enough or winning enough rounds to come close to winning a decision. Now, we talked about what's at stake in this fight. Now, John Ryder has already had a shot at Canelo Alvarez. Jaime Munguia, over the last couple of weeks, has been rumored to be in that Canelo Alvarez mix. Now, some people might say he hasn't earned it up until this point, but he is a former world champion. He is undefeated. He does have a decent fan base. Do you think a win over Ryder would earn Munguia a shot at Canelo?
Yes, because deserve has nothing to do with it. Like in Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven. And there's an unforgiving sport. I mean, look at Julio Cesar Chavez when he got that huge payday against Canelo. He didn't deserve it. He didn't fight the big names, but he had the undefeated record. He had the popularity. He had the Mexican fan base. Exact same thing Jaime Munguia has. So they could promote it on the big stage, on a big Mexican holiday. Absolutely. But Munguia needs to pass the test. He needs to pull his weight. He has to have.
So what does he need to do?
Then
what does that look like? Does he need to
stop John Ryder? He needs to do what Canelo couldn't do. That's how you make a statement. That's how you get guys like Benavidez and Canelo and all the big dogs at 168 to look in your direction, to wink at you and say, all right, I see you. That's the only way it happens, because if he struggles with another, fringe, contender or a world title challenger, it's just going to be part of his track record. He puts up good fights. He's entertaining, but he doesn't do it on the championship level. I'm talking about Munguia. So Ryder actually needs to cross the finish line. He needs to do something special, but I just don't see him doing it against Munguia. Munguia needs to look spectacular. I think he is.
Yeah, look, the most deserving guy, we'd both agree, to fight Canelo Alvarez is David Benavidez, but it doesn't sound like Canelo is looking in that direction, at least not for this May fight. There's been some talk about Terrence Crawford, but Canelo has dismissed that. So really what we're talking about in terms of most realistic Canelo opponents for May is Jermall Charlo and Jaime Munguia. And even though Munguia hasn't done what most would hope he would have done to earn a shot at Canelo, he's done a hell of a lot more than what Jermall Charlo has done, over the last few years to earn that shot. So I think there's a lot on the line for Jaime Munguia. I think if he wins and wins spectacularly, there will be some momentum and a lot of chatter about a Canelo fight at some point later in the year.